All right, take it away.
Thank you. Hear ye, call to order the Wednesday, October 14th, 2020 meeting of the Victorian Village Commission. It is 4:04 p.m. We are meeting virtually by WebEx. The next monthly business meeting will be at noon on Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. It will be a virtual meeting/hearing, again, to be conducted via WebEx. The next commission hearing is 4:00 p.m. on Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. It will be held via WebEx. I will now swear in staff. Sarah? Is anyone going to join you?
No.
Sarah, do you swear or affirm the testimony and you will give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sarah Medwig, I do.
Thank you. All right, let's each introduce ourselves. Well, I'll just call a roll to determine who is here. Ms. Moriarty, you are here, correct?
Present, yes.
Ms. Kodheimer, you are here?
Yep.
Mr. Conyers, you are present?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Hissam, you are present?
Yes.
And Jack Decker, Vice Chair, Acting Chair, is here. It gives us a full slate of our depleted numbers are present today. Next on the agenda is to approve the minutes of September 9th, 2020. They've been distributed. We've had the opportunity to review them. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Who's second?
I did. Hissam.
Conyers moves. Hissam second. Any further discussion? All right. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker. Yes, they are approved. Do we have a public forum today? Sarah's shaking her head no. All right. Do we have a motion to enter the staff approvals into the record? Someone. Conyers moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's Moriarty seconded. Further discussion? Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is done. All right. Applications for certificates of appropriateness. We have several staff recommended applications. Take it away, Sarah.
Okay. First thing is 120 Goodell Street. This is at Goodell Park. It's a request for action for landscaping. The applicant would like to install new LED area lights, some couplers for irrigation, to repaint the gazebo, install new lights in the gazebo, and then replace the deteriorated plaza surrounding the gazebo per the submitted drawings. Staff's analysis is that the lights match the existing and the project maintains the gazebo and overall environment while improving the surrounding area. So staff would recommend approving this application as submitted. The basis for recommendation standards for site improvement to just say that landscaping improvements should be compatible to each other, to the subject building or structure, as well as the adjacent areas and environment.
All right, in this bridge, okay, never mind. It's clear the pond improvements are not in the project, including the boardwalk. All right. Discussion. I'm not sure we have jurisdiction over this, actually.
Can we check and see? I'm not sure if the applicant is on.
Is anyone here from the representing the city or the park?
I'm here, Mark Bachrath. I don't know if Rachel's on the line from Rec and Park, but I can represent.
Yeah, I'd like Mark to speak, but I'm here for Rec and Park, yeah.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what staff, either of you have
Could you swear?
Yes. First, both, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth of the whole truth?
Yes.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what staff has said?
No.
Is this a courtesy application or something that we have to actually issue a certificate for?
Staff is going to issue a certificate. I don't know the specifics of whether we said no, but staff will issue a certificate for this.
Let's go ahead and vote on it as if it is a certificate, and then if we overdo it, that's fine. Any discussion from the commissioners?
Nope.
I have a couple. Is the color temperature of the light matching what's out there?
Yes, it is matching. Yep. I will confirm with our electrical engineer, but Kramer engineers are doing the lighting. But I will double check and confirm that the color temperatures match.
And that is my understanding also, but it would be good to double check. Yes.
That's a good point. We don't want the gazebo to be glowing blue out there. Any other discussion?
Do we have a sample of the bricks we intend to use? Do you know what color bricks?
Currently, there are no bricks in the project. Except, I guess, yeah, you are right. There is some vertical walls, some short vertical walls that have brick. There are not physical samples, but I will say that the design intent is to match what's there currently.
Sounds good.
Any other discussion? Do we want to have a motion and stipulate that the wall sample will be shown to staff and that the light temperature will match what's there?
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted with the brick cut sheets submitted to staff and just confirmation of the color temperature of the light.
The color temperature of the lights would be a condition of the certificate, right?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was there first? I think it was Aaron. Aaron seconds. Further discussion? All right, let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Goodheimer.
Yes.
That's a yes. Conyers.
Yes.
Pissom.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is done.
Aaron,
Thank you very much.
Game show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's that the paint job on that gazebo is getting pretty hairy. I'm glad that you're upgrading it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right, what is next?
Second is 953 Denison Avenue. It's a request for action for an addition. This is to decrease the size of an addition that was previously approved as VV 20-06024B. It's going from 37 feet to 30 feet, from 16 feet to 12 feet wide, and a window will be removed from the south elevation per the submitted drawings. The applicant is proposing these changes due to zoning review rather than applying for variances. And so I've included the comments that zoning review gave to the applicant for your review. Staff finds that these changes still appear to be appropriate and compatible with the existing house and surrounding area. The proposed addition still maintains on the primary elevation the window configuration and roof height that the commissioners had requested in the original certificate. The staff would recommend approving this application as submitted.
All right, do we have the applicant with us? Apparently not. All right.
I don't think.
Discussion. Anybody have any issues with this?
And I included
Issues from
at the
Congress.
bottom or at the end the what was approved previously. So, yep, there you go.
Sean, did you try to get a word in here?
I just said no issues from Conyers. It's actually smaller than what was previously being proposed. So, and I think that a lot of the commissioners' comments, as well as the neighborhood comments, were really echoing, I should say, the rear and the front elevation. So I don't see any concerns with the revisions.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Let us vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Klotheimer,
Yes.
Liesel,
Yes.
not participating. Liesel, that's a yes. Conyers,
Yes.
Hissam,
Yes.
Deckers, yes.
We
Motion passes.
Yes.
Yes. Sarah?
Who made the motion? I don't know if we got that.
Who did make the motion? Did anyone remember?
Sean?
Sean, I think Sean made the motion, didn't you?
Me.
Aaron did. We all right? Next, please.
Okay. Next is 903 Neal Avenue. This is a request for action for landscaping. This is to modify an existing wrought iron fence to install a lockable double gate per submitted drawings. So the proposed gate does match the design of the existing fence, and the design of this gate aligns with the architectural style and character of other contributing properties on the same block. So staff would recommend approving this application as submitted based on the standards for site improvement that states that landscaping and improvements should be compatible to each other, to the building, as well as to adjacent contributing properties, and that pieces of wrought iron are encouraged.
And Mr. Conyers, I would assume you are abstaining since this outrage is proposed for your property, right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right. Do you, as an applicant, do you have anything to add?
No, sir. It's pretty self-explanatory, and Sarah did an excellent job as usual, given an understanding of the project.
All right. Do we have any discussion from the commissioners? Hearing nothing, let us vote.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Oh, we need that too. Thank you. Second by Hissam.
Yep.
All right. Now, any discussion? All right. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodheimer,
Yes.
Hissam,
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is done. Motion passes. You can come back now, Sean.
Thank you.
Next.
Next is 104 West Hubbard. This is Hubbard Elementary School. It's a request for action for an exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to install 2 laminated 12-foot by 5-foot murals on the gymnasium addition. The murals will adhere to brick via a heat-applied vinyl, which has been used successfully for numerous projects in the short north. Removal of the murals in the future should not damage any of the brick, and applying this mural to this wall will not cover or obscure any of the school's character-defining features. The staff would recommend approving this as submitted.
All right. Anyone here from the school?
Yes,
Who is that?
I'm the PTO officer. I'm the one who wrote the application.
All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
As well as I can.
That's a yes, I take it.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Do you have anything? Go ahead.
Video.
What's that?
Do you have video? We do need that to be on.
I do. Oh, it says start. I'm sorry. It's not a reader at the moment. There we go. I can see me.
There you are.
Be able to see me. Okay.
Do you swear? I need to swear you and I can see you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Miss Wise?
Yes, sir, I do.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what staff has said?
I do not.
Discussion.
Let me
Yeah.
add that at the business meeting, commissioners asked if there would be a plaque or anything else besides just these two, and the applicant has clarified that no, there will be nothing else except for these two murals.
All right. Any discussion, or is it time for a motion?
I think it looks really nice.
I think it's a good time for this.
Yep. Motion?
Motion to approve as submitted?
That's Moriarty. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Codeheimer. Further discussion. Let us vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Codeheimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Pissam,
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is passed. It is done. This will really brighten up your school.
I think it's going to be great. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. What's next?
Next is 610 to 618 Neal Avenue. It's a request for action for signage and variances. This is the Historic Age Church at the northeast corner of Neal and Goodell. The applicant is proposing to install two signs, one projecting blade sign and one wall sign. The blade sign would be illuminated by small profile bullet lamps mounted to a steel mast arm, and the wall sign would be illuminated by reverse channel halo backlit letters. Both signs to be installed per the submitted drawings and attached to the mortar joints. Variances are listed and speak to the property's location on Neal, the side yards, and the rear yard. So applicant did work with staff to develop signs that met the Victorian Village guidelines. Staff finds that both are proposed to be installed appropriately in mortar. The signs will be illuminated externally, which meets the residential nature of the surrounding area, and the variances will resolve existing conditions. So the staff would recommend approving the application as submitted. Staff recommended this based on Victorian Village's guidelines that say that the use of a logo or a symbol is appropriate, that the sign should emphasize the character and scale of the residential neighborhood, that the graphic should be simple, it should be exterior and integral to the design. And I think
All right.
we should have an applicant here.
Do we? Who's here?
Hi, Craig Moncrief, attorney, and also I believe we have somebody from Columbus Sign Co.
Someone from.
Yes, Serenity Jones here from Columbus Sign Company.
All right. Can you guys turn your video on? I can't see either of you. I can see Craig. There's Serenity. You both swear or affirm the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
I do.
Ms. Jones, do you also swear? Okay, your audio isn't on, but
I also swear. Sorry about that.
that was the problem. Okay, do you have anything to add to any of this?
Nothing to add here. Welcome to answer any questions.
I just have one. Just to make sure I'm interpreting this drawing right, there will be no visible electric lines on the outside of the building. An electric line will run through the mast into the brick and into the interior of the building. Is that correct? Have I read your drawings properly?
Yes, they will. All the electrical will be within the sign going from, and the blade sign will be going within the rod part, and then it will be behind for the other side. Yes.
So it won't. There isn't going to be any exterior conduit required by this. That's what I thought. Any other discussion, folks? Are we ready for a motion?
I'm sorry.
Make a motion to approve as submitted.
Do we have a set? That's Codeheimer. Second?
Second.
That must have been Hissam. Very well. Further discussion. Hearing none, let's vote. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kodimer,
Yes.
Conyers,
Yes.
Hissam,
Yes.
Decker, yes, it is approved. I'm really glad to see somebody is making use of this church.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, next is 1079 North High Street. This is Lux 23's new construction on the west side of High Street at its intersection with 3rd Avenue. This is a continued application in part. The Chop House sign you reviewed before is back. There's also a portion that's for an additional new sign. The Chop House sign proposed for installation is 17 feet tall, a projecting sign, a blade sign per submitted drawings. The sign is to be 70 square feet, which does not meet the Short North design guidelines. The sign is to have open face letters illuminated with neon and LED bulbs. And the parking sign is a 36-inch diameter round P blade sign on the south elevation. It will have open face channel, a letter P, double stroke neon tube. So staff designed to be appropriately sized. The applicant did work with staff to develop lighting that meets the Short North design guidelines for both of the signs. The Chop House sign is still much larger than the 12 square foot limit for projecting blade signs per the Short North design guidelines. I've included minutes from the August 12th Victorian Village meeting. Generally, the commissioners were stating, and you can read them, but in some, basically that the sign is not pedestrian oriented, and that it's just basically a very large sign. So staff would recommend approving the application with the condition that the Chop House sign should be reduced to 12 square feet to meet the Short North design guidelines. That's based on the guidelines, which state that it is a pedestrian-oriented district, and that the maximum size of that should be 12 square feet. And I think we have an applicant, but yes.
Who is here from the applicant?
David Hodge, attorney for the applicant.
Mr. Hodge, I don't think I need to swear you, and I didn't need to swear the last lawyer either. We make exceptions for lawyers for some reason. All right. What have you to say for yourself, Mr. Hodge?
Thanks
for your client.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. I'm sure most of you, at least those of you that were present at the previous meetings, remember this sign. We were here previously, with a much larger iteration of this, which most of you at that time, I guess agreed that it was much too large. I think we were previously at about 160 square feet. We've reduced that down here to 96 square feet. So we're back this afternoon with a sign that's about 40% smaller than what we were previously here with. Certainly, it does not comply with the Short North guidelines, and that's perfectly obvious. Just seems to me that, and I know that there was a time that folks worked very hard on those Short North guidelines, but to come in and just do a 12 square foot max for every single projecting sign out here seems to me to stifle creativity and create a bunch of uniformity. And I don't think that on really Columbus's marquee urban corridor that we shouldn't at least have an open mind to creating something a little bit different here. There was some discussion among some of the commissioners at the previous meeting that because of the size of this building, because of the scale of this building, because of the amount of frontage that it has both on High and 3rd, and because of the prominence of this corner, that it would or could warrant some signage that was larger than what is provided under the Short North guidelines. So we're back with a similar sign, albeit much smaller. And we hope to engage the commission in an earnest discussion about whether or not a sign of this size is appropriate on this building at this location. Certainly, it's not every place, but this is a unique set of circumstances which we believe warrants some discussion.
Hey, David, this is Jared Smith from Preferred. If you could, can I ask you to jump in on a couple other topics?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Who's speaking? Jared Smith?
Sorry, Chairman Decker. Yes, Jared Smith from Preferred Living for the applicant.
For the applicant, do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well, Mr. Smith. Go ahead.
I think the one other thing I wanted to mention, as David noticed, and we talked about before, the size and scale of the building relative to the size of the sign in general. Also going along, obviously, with the other signs that are in the area, although they predate the Short North guidelines for signage in and of itself. One thing that David didn't mention is this is the last and only other sign that goes on the building. We've kind of put together a signage plan that all previous other ones were approved. The single parking lot sign on 3rd Avenue, the Whiskey Lounge sign, and the small signage on the marquee. So we're not back for any other signage. And the interesting thing about the signage code, while no sign can be more than 12 square feet, given the size and mass of the building, what was the total square footage of 12-foot signs we could have, David? I thought that was an interesting fact.
Yeah, so on the south side of the building, I'm going to jump over to the south. We would be allowed to go up to 234 square feet. What we propose is 9, which is the parking sign that's on the agenda tonight. Along the High Street frontage, we're allowed up to 306 square feet. We're asking for approximately 96 with the Chop House. We did 12. We agreed to 12 with Whiskey Lounge, and we have the Lux 23, which was just around 12 square feet as well.
All right. Discussion. Well, I might, as one of the people who perhaps Mr. Hodge was quoting as being willing to entertain some flexibility, I would simply point out that there is a very good reason for the mindless uniformity of our sign code. And that is to prevent sign competition among merchants up and down the street, to prevent people from erecting progressively larger and more visibly attractive signs to try to get attention from their neighbors. So there is a reason for the mindless uniformity of our code. I'm not sure our guidelines allowed an applicant to bank sign footage and then use it all on one. But I'm going to turn the floor over to my fellow commissioners and see what they think.
Well, there's part of me that this sort of middle part of our strip is sort of lacking any kind of animation. I think the reduced sign wouldn't be a bad thing given the size of the building and where it's located.
You think it's too high?
That's the only piece that I would say it needs to be brought down.
Maybe a floor?
Maybe a floor.
We can do that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hissam.
I have just a discussion topic. So I have a problem with this mostly because it's a tenant sign, which obviously if the tenant goes away, the sign goes away. The other examples in the neighborhood that have big signs that have a similar aesthetic. The sort of dominant text is related to the place. So Hubbard, the hub, the fireproof, and it's not a tenant sign. And so I think this would be appropriate if it was a sign for the building, but not as a tenant. And then again, it's a slippery slope. Everybody comes in with bigger and bigger signs. Italian Village has approved signs that don't meet the guidelines, and we're not Italian Village, so we're just going to be better than them, I think.
Jared, do you want to talk a little bit about this Chop House tenant and who they are and what they're doing and why they're looking for this?
Why don't we wait a minute and see if we have any other commissioner comments, and then we'll get back to that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Conyers, Ms. Moriarty, what do you think?
I was going to follow up on Liesel's comment. If the tenant leaves, do you have a plan in place for removing the sign? I also feel like there's some flexibility as far as creativity in the signage section of the design guidelines. So if you could make a case for how you would be treating that sign if that tenant goes away.
All right. Well, we might as well go back to the applicant now.
No,
Well,
I still haven't had a chance to talk.
oh, well, then go ahead.
No problem. I was just waiting on air. So I think
Sorry,
my
I
comments from last time-
I thought you were collecting your thoughts. Go ahead.
Oh, it's no problem. So
I can't see you,
the
so I'd have
comments-
to guess.
No problem. I apologize. So my comments are the same, I think, as last time. I would echo Liesel's comments. They were kind of spot on from just the last discussion in terms of being, the size. And then if the size grows, it's typically related to a place or the building itself in lieu of the tenant. So I think I would still, I do agree in terms of with Hissam, in terms of the location of whatever the resultant size is being able to drop that down to the kind of pedestrian scale. I think that was a great comment as well. So but I'm in favor of a smaller sign that addresses those items.
All right. Now, the applicant said something they wanted to mention in connection with the tenant.
I guess I can address that. Obviously, it's a steakhouse concept that they're really excited about. We have a couple local entrepreneurs doing. There's Goody Boy down the street that is obviously a restaurant in and of itself. There are restaurant and owner-occupied signage in and of itself, but I understand Hubbard, Madison down the street are destination-oriented and not, I should say, less tenant-oriented. I think I just go back to the side. I took this sign for entertainment purposes down to 12 and 24 square feet, and for lack of better words, it was laughable in this matter. It really needs something on that hard corner. And as we talked about in the first couple meetings, in the 2.5 years ago when we brought this project through, we were not asking for any signage approvals, but we had a projecting sign of that scale on the side of the building. And at that time, it did say Lux 23. It didn't say Chop House. But given the hard corner and the excitement of the center and the side of the restaurant, we decided to give the restaurant that opportunity for that hard corner. I don't have experience in when should a tenant leave the building, what happens to the signage, but I believe in most cases they have to come back to see you guys. Is that correct?
I would think so, unless you left Urban Chop House up, advertising nothing in particular.
So I guess the question on that aspect of it, Jared, is if Chop House goes out, is there an agreement that sign just comes down and whatever new tenant comes in, we come in and have a discussion at that time about signage for whoever that person is?
I think that's
any motion could contain such a proviso. How it would be enforced, I don't know, but I think you would be, the applicant would have an incentive to have to come back anyway.
Correct.
Great.
Go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
I think there's I tend to agree with Jeff that this is a long, dark section of High Street. And you're not really, the anti-competition reasons for the guidelines are a little weaker here than they might otherwise be. If this were moved down, I could support it if it were smaller, but I'm willing to go larger than 12 square feet. Does anyone else, other than Mr. Hissom, perhaps halfway, does anyone else agree with such an approach? Or not?
I don't, unless we revise this.
Okay, wait a minute. Mr. Conyers was trying to say something first.
I'm sorry. I would be willing to take a look at that. I just don't know what that necessarily equates to. If there's a legibility problem, something of that nature. So, but I don't know what that square footage would end up resulting in.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the lines of 2/3 what's there, which is still a lot larger than what we've got. But you don't need it to be that large if it's lower for legibility reasons, right? Right, Sean?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Somebody else was trying to get a word in edgewise. Who was that?
It was me. I don't know. I have trouble with this just because I feel like we could revise the signage guidelines, but I'd be reluctant to approve this before that.
I just point out that the guidelines are guidelines, which means that a guideline does not apply in 100% of cases. If we have a really good reason to avoid applying it. Now, that doesn't mean you apply it in 10% of the cases and otherwise systematically ignore it. But I think it's inherent in the nature of guidelines that we can make exceptions if we have a good reason to call out. And we've done that, for instance, for the hub sign, because it had historic, it was designed to be similar to the old Chevy sign that hung there, I think. Is that right, Mr. Hissom?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we've made exceptions, and that sign is much larger than 12 square feet. So we made exceptions when we have a reason. And if we don't think it's going to touch off a signage war, which we don't want to have.
And we certainly understand the concern over establishing a precedent, but for all the reasons that many of you have raised, I don't think this does set a precedent.
Do we know what the signage square footage of the Hubbard Grill is? Or around that?
No, but I think something 2/3 the size of this and brought down a story would be in that neighborhood, just from eyeballing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that we've already set the precedent with that sign, and I'm okay with the size and scale of the Hubbard Grill sign. So that's why I would say there's flexibility in the design guidelines, but it's hard to compare the two without, having the drawings side by side.
Would it be appropriate to say that in an approval, the size and scale could be no larger than the Hubbard Grill sign?
I think that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right. Do we want to make I think we could probably make a motion now and put enough stipulations in it that the city could issue a certificate without requiring the applicant to come back. What do you think?
If that's a question for me, I agree with you.
Sarah, you okay with that?
I'm fine with it unless commissioners want a subcommittee to get it via email or anything like that.
Yeah, it would be a motion that the application is approved as submitted, sign to remain up no longer than the urban chop house is actually a tenant. It's to be moved down a story and to be no larger in area than the Hubbard Grill sign. Oh, somebody found something about it.
That was quick.
Very impressive, Mr. Taba.
Yes, thanks, Lewis.
Do we have dimensions on that? I think we were talking though about area, not necessarily height. That is how tall
18.
How tall is it?
18.7.
18 feet?
So it looks like.
Yep.
How big is this thing?
17.6.
As proposed?
So I get bigger?
No.
Okay.
The Hubbard Grill is basically set up like a Chevy sign because that was it's hanging on an old Chevrolet dealership. Do we? Are you sure you want to have it this big, especially if it moves down a story, Aaron?
Well, the Hubbard Grill is also very low to the ground. I was actually kind of okay with where they had the original chop house sign located because it's, in my opinion, centered on the building. But if you guys all want it lower, then we can put it lower.
I really do believe it needs to go down a story.
I do too. It needs to be pedestrian oriented. At the very least, it needs to be centered on the building, which would still bring it down nearly a story.
Yep, agreed.
Well, what do we want to do about size now that we've decided that Hubbard Grill is at least tall? The hub is at least taller than this. The Hubbard.
This sign is a little wider than Hubbard, so we'd love the original discussion, which is not to exceed the square footage of the Hubbard Grill sign.
Whatever that is.
I would agree. And the conditions are the special conditions warrant that also.
All right. So somebody want to make a motion? I took a stab at identifying some of the things that might be in it. Mr. Hissom, you started this discussion, so we blame you. Can you make the motion, please?
Make a motion for application as presented with the following remarks. If the chop house, if the establishment leaves, the sign goes also. The second piece is a sign. It needs to be moved 1 story lower or actually be centered on the facade. And the third stipulation is that you will look at the Hubbard sign and get the square footage, and your sign will adapt to that square footage.
It will not exceed it.
It will not exceed that square footage.
Have we covered it, folks? Do we have a second?
We also
I have a point of order. Sarah?
we need the parking sign too.
Sarah, oh. That's included, I suppose, in approving the application as submitted, is it not?
Should be, just making sure everyone, we didn't talk about that at all.
Was that your intention, Jeff?
Yes.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right. All in, oh, wait, we have a roll call. Moriarty,
Yes.
Kotheimer,
No.
Conyers,
Yes.
Gissem,
Yes.
Decker, Grumble, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Very
Have a
well.
great meeting.
Next.
Next is 1039 Hunter. This is a request for action for exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to remove aluminum siding from 3 sides of a rear 1-story portion and install a smooth vinyl siding on this rear addition to match the garage. Commissioners at the business meeting indicated that the applicant should bring an additional siding option. So the applicant has proposed as an alternate 5¼ inch smooth James Hardy siding with a 4-inch reveal painted to match the existing. Staff did some research to see the age of what was called an addition, and I believe it's original to the property, at least in footprint. So it would seem appropriate to remove this aluminum siding that's currently on there. I think I wrote remove vinyl siding, so I mean remove the aluminum. Staff would recommend approving the application with conditions that when that aluminum is removed, if the original siding is beneath it, they should investigate whether rehabilitation is an option prior to putting on new siding. And that new siding should either be wood clapboard or the smooth James Hardy clapboard siding with 3 to 4 inch exposure. This comes from standards for alteration, which just state that deteriorated characteristics shall not, or distinguishing characteristics shall not be destroyed, and deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible, and that exterior cladding of a structure shall be consistent with the original materials used on the property.
Do we have someone? Oh, go ahead. Are you done?
I'm done.
Do we have someone from the applicant? Hello. All right, discussion. Any discussion, folks? We have another situation on the agenda with that does where we are able to see the underlying clapboard. So,
would you want to?
How would this work when they Sarah, when they remove the siding? Or are they going to let you know and have a staff visit to take a look at it, or what?
Maybe I would ask that we wait to see if they pop on a little later, because that's something that I haven't talked to them about yet. And I think that that would be good for a discussion. We can circle back to this in a couple applications.
Is that all right, folks? Let's move on. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Let me scroll. The next one is 1127 North High Street. This is a request for action for signage. This applicant would like to install a double-faced blade sign illuminated by 2 gooseneck lights attached to either side of the steel tube. Staff requested a drawing showing the lights attached to the sign, and commissioners at the business meeting requested a close-up image of the logo on the sign, but I hadn't received any of that by the due date of October 7th. I actually think the applicant might have sent that a few moments before the hearing started, so I haven't reviewed that. Other than not sending this information in for review prior to today, the sign does appear to generally meet the Short North design guidelines for size and for illumination. So staff would recommend continuing this application to give the applicant the opportunity to submit that information, which may have just been submitted, but still needs to be reviewed. Yeah, so staff recommends continuing.
Is anyone here from the applicant? representing the applicant? Hello, anyone? Want to continue it, folks?
I think it's good.
Then, I don't know if it can work this way, but I have a suggestion that maybe Sarah could pass on to the applicant. Is there any way they can simplify the graphic and make it only just a couple colors? So it's more easily legible, because there's just a lot going on there. So if it was like a pink sign with white writing or something like that.
Yeah, I can definitely tell them that. I think that that was a reason why commissioners at the business meeting were kind of saying they needed to see it blown up, was just to like kind of take in everything that was going on. So I can definitely share that with them.
My issue is different, which is that the lighting is clumsy. That is that you've got lights like this that are apparently stuck on the building somewhere. I can't tell what's going on. But I think with a sign like this, it would be a lot better to have simple lights attached to the sign itself.
Their intention is to attach it to the post that the sign will be hanging on, but I had asked for a rendering showing that just to further clarify. So that's something I'd like them to submit when this is continued, if this is continued as well.
All right, well, let's move along. Do we have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All right. Moriarty?
Yes.
Codimer?
Yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Hitson?
Yes.
Decker? Yes, it is continued. Next, please.
Next is 716 Neal Avenue. This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to remove all the slate roof tiles and replace the slate with GAF slate line weathered slate. Previously, it was approved to have the slate removed and replaced with a faux slate, which was the Inspire Classic slate, and that was in September of 2019. The photographs that were submitted do appear to show significant damage to the existing slate roof, and the replacement was previously approved. But staff found that the previous approval had dimensions and texture that more closely resembled actual slate. However, the GAF slate line is also on the approved shingles list. Staff bringing this to the commission again, just in case there was a reasoning behind why this faux slate was approved, if that was due to the high visibility because of the location. So basically, I just wanted to give y'all a second chance to take a look at this now that there is a significantly different asphalt slate being suggested. Staff would recommend that the applicant replaces the slate with that Inspire Classic slate or with another faux slate rather than the asphalt shingle, though the asphalt shingle is certainly on the approved list. The standards for alteration were considered here, which is that distinguishing characteristics shall not be destroyed, and that distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be treated with sensitivity. That's all.
All right, do we have someone here representing or the applicant or the applicant? Hello.
I'm here, the homeowner, Melissa Flynn.
Good. Ms. Flynn, can you turn on your video?
I thought it was on, sorry.
It's not. There's a button somewhere.
Here I am. Do you see me?
Not yet.
Now?
There you are.
Hello.
Ms. Flynn, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you tell us why we're at the juncture we now are and why you're changing from the faux slate to the GAF slate line?
When we got all the quotes in about just how much damage there was to our roof and how much it was going to cost to do all the re-engineering of everything, the cost was so high that we couldn't afford the slate that we had chosen. I don't know if you remember the slate that we chose was not up to the choice of the commission at that time. It was approved on kind of a provisional basis because it's not on the list. So we went back with something that is on the list, and just want to get that approved. The roof is like completely falling in by now. COVID has pushed back all of the dates on the construction. So at this point, it's just more and more damage being done. We're on our third tarp now. So we really want to get this started. And we picked something that was on the list because it's on the list.
All right, discussion.
I think it's the camera.
Sean, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so just a quick question. I know before we had looked at a couple of products in the recent past. I'm not familiar with the names of those products versus the names of the products that were presented for this particular property. There was a property, I think it was on the north. I think it was maybe on King and High, or on Fifth and High, a law office, if I remember correctly. And that might be, that's probably Fifth and Neil, actually. I'm sorry.
Right.
Where it was a faux product that was proposed. That product didn't last, but there was another product that they have installed, and that product was pretty positive in terms of its outcome. I'm not sure if that is a viable solution in terms of getting us back to the potential slate look. Just a thought.
Are you asking me?
No. Was that a question, Sean, or an observation?
It's just an observation back to the balance of the commissioners as we continue to evaluate the property.
You know, to be real honest, this Inspire stuff, I'm not wild about it. It's going to give you a virtual gray look with a few shadow lines, which strikes me as a lot different than what's on there now.
And the Inspire stuff is the stuff that's on the approved list?
No, the Inspire is what we approved.
Oh, right. And you
for
didn't
your
like
roof.
it back then either. I think honestly, you really didn't. And I think you just wanted to, we made the case that it was an aspirational choice. And we just, economic hardship, it's going to, just to do the roof is going to be over $105,000.
Oof.
With the new
with
asphalt.
Inspire. Oh, with the asphalt?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a big roof, and there's significant damage to the whole roof. We've had engineering studies done and architectural studies done, and all kinds of ins and outs, and it's a mess. The roof is a mess.
What's your cost? Did you cost out the Inspire?
Our contractor, Greg Klosik, did. He's the name on this application, and I don't have it with me, but it's significantly more.
What significantly, do you know? Neighborhood?
I'm going to say maybe $10,000 to $20,000 more. The square footage on this roof is immense. And I didn't want to put asphalt on, which is why we aspirationally asked for the other thing. But I'm happy with asphalt at this point. And I think we went with the one that was the most consistent with what's in the neighborhood. I'd be happy to pick a different asphalt, but we simply can't afford to do what we had intended or what we got permission to do.
So I seem to remember the conversation we had the first time this came through was, we've already established that the roof needs to be replaced and certainly don't want to cause any more damage to the home. I think we were looking forward to seeing what this product might look like to see if it was something we wanted to add to the list, but considering you've chosen something that is already on the list, I don't see why there's even an argument here. I think we can
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. Are you ready for a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second?
Second.
That's Codeheimer. Further discussion? I too find it difficult to believe that see a real issue, especially given the advanced deterioration of this roof with this application. All right, any discussion further? Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Codeheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Motion passes.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, ma'am. You've got a big job ahead of you.
I thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Next.
Next is 331 to 333 West 2nd. This is a request for action for exterior building alteration. The applicant would like to replace the wooden clapboard siding with James Hardy clapboard siding in blue with a 4-inch exposure. So I met Chair Decker at the site on Monday, October 5th to view existing conditions and to obtain some additional photographs. From that site visit, staff did not find that the siding appeared to illustrate that it was fatally compromised. Staff and commissioners have both requested a cost estimate for repair, but the applicant has not yet submitted that additional information. Staff would recommend continuing this application to allow the applicant time to seek an estimate for repair. This is based on the standards for alteration, which state that distinguished characteristics shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of historic material shall be avoided whenever possible. Distinctive features, examples of craftsmanship, should be treated with sensitivity, and that features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible, and that exterior cladding of the structure shall be consistent with the original material used on the property.
All right. Is anyone from the applicant, is the applicant or anyone representing the applicant present? Hello. All right. I just point out that on our site visit, a lot of on the ends of these boards that it looks like it could have been in the applicant's photographs that could have been wood deterioration looked to me like paint bubbling. And there you can see that some of the boards have already been replaced, but apparently those replacement boards were whoever did this found lying around because they do not match the profile of the siding that's on the building. So, Justin, are you the applicant?
I actually represent Able Roofing and Siding, of course. I'm here just on behalf of the original application, not what you guys have seen further where you see that it could be repaired. I really think it's a moot point for my application, and it seems like something that possibly the owner should probably look towards remedying through your guidelines.
Do you have anything further to state other than that you have nothing to state?
That's pretty much it.
All right. I don't need to swear you then. So that's what Perfect. We've got. Did we have any, well, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to, I guess you went away. Discussion. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give? If you're asked any more questions, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Very well. Okay. Questions? Discussion? We actually have a building where it's stripped naked, so we can see what's going on. I think they're also, if you look at the crown work, it's pretty much different for every window. So there's probably something that needs to be done to restore the crown work, the middle of the second floor facing the alley. That second floor window in the middle appears to be closest to what had have been there originally. Any other discussion? I think he's awful close to being at a point where he can fix this. Let's get it all stripped off. I think he may have to have some siding milled, but there's not that much of it if it's not stock, and I don't know whether it is or it isn't.
Yeah, I think, Jack, without the applicant here, it would be best move us to continue it as suggested.
I'll quit talking to myself then. Do we have a motion?
Motion to continue.
Second?
Second.
Hisson was first on the draw. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. Moriarty.
Yes.
Cudheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hisson.
Yes.
Decker, yes, it is continued. Mr. Justin, thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, sir.
Next.
Next is 297 West First Avenue. It's a request for action for landscaping. This is an application in response to a code violation. The work is already completed. The applicant removed a fence and railroad ties along Henry Street and constructed a masonry retaining wall per the submitted drawings. Staff found that removing the railroad tie brought the property further into compliance with Victorian Village guidelines, which state that railroad ties should not be used. Commissioners at the business meeting requested a site plan and additional photos, which the applicant has submitted. And the new wall, while non-traditional materials, is not significantly different than landscaping materials used at surrounding properties. And the standards for site improvement do say that landscaping and similar improvements can be compatible with the subject building as well as adjacent properties, open spaces, and overall environment. So staff would recommend approving the application as submitted.
Do we have someone here from the applicant?
Yes, you have both homeowners.
All right, where are you? There you are. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, do you have anything to add to what has been stated by staff?
No, this time.
The new photos are helpful. All right, discussion.
I would say, I mean, we've seen this happen before. One way we sort of remedied and there's two. Is that the neighbors?
Lois, can you scroll down towards the end? There's some additional photos that show it from further away that I think help. There you go. Clarify.
Okay. So they added the ones closest to us.
I think the whole wall was added from the driveway all the way to the rear alley.
So if I can just ask the applicants, you live in this row of condos then that abuts the alley?
Correct.
Got it.
sorry, I wasn't in the business meeting. There's two different materials there? Is one new, one older?
Both materials are new. There was existing railroad ties that went along the entire length of the property there, adjacent to the alley. And there was a fence, that original fence that was falling into the alley. It went to the edge of the property, kind of where that transition is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the fence ended, and there was a bit of a transition in the land there.
So your grade drops a little bit, which is why you're changing wall height, right?
Correct.
I think we just need to make this look, I mean, obviously you guys have improved it, but not quite up to the standard that we would expect. And I think if you use one material for the whole thing, that would make a huge difference, rather than switching halfway. And then the other suggestion, which we've done on other properties, is instead of the sort of manufactured capstone, using natural stone as a cap. Because typically the entire wall would be natural stone in the neighborhood. So you're sort of getting a break by doing the wall in concrete and then only having to do the cap in natural stone. Those are my suggestions.
I think that's a good suggestion.
So what you would propose would be to remove the new wall from that junction point near the cone towards the street.
Yep.
Which is the length of about a parking space.
Yeah.
And then capping the whole thing with natural stone.
Yeah. Or either removing that or continuing the back wall to the front.
Either removing what?
Removing the front wall thingy.
Got it.
And then making it all one wall material.
And then continuing the material that's in the back all the way to the front.
Yeah.
That's what you're proposing, Liesl.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, like, you could do either one, but I'm assuming the one in the back is more structural.
Yeah, I don't think it would cause any violence to the property to have the wall a little high as it nears the front of the property, even though the grade drops, right?
Isn't the front wall already natural stone? It look like that material looks nicer to me back.
It does, but it's probably less functional than the one on the back side of the property.
Where are applicants? Are they both cast stone, or is one natural? Or cast concrete, or is one of these natural stone?
Neither of them would be natural stone, but they certainly have a natural look. And I think, as stated at the beginning of our case, an improvement to the existing conditions that were in place, and materials that exist nearby our property.
I don't think any of us disagrees that pulling out the railroad ties and replacing them is an improvement. On the other hand, you would have been better served living in an historic district to come to the commission first to make sure that you were in line with what our expectations were before you did the work. Any other discussion?
Just on that point, Jack, I was going to ask the applicants, do you guys have a property manager for your HOA? So it seems that they would have been the ones that would have either been paying for this or at least told you about the historic guidelines.
Yeah, it's a single family home, and we're not a part of a HOA.
Okay.
We have a shared firewall.
Got it.
Are we ready for a motion?
I guess, the question is, do they want a motion or do they need to figure out what they want to do?
That's a good question. I mean, the motion, I assume what we're prepared to do is to approve it as submitted, but to require that the material all be the same from one end to the other, and that you replace, you cap the whole thing off with a natural stone cap. Right, Liesl?
I think so, yeah.
So is that something you could live with, or do you want us to look at options?
Yeah, I don't know if we could live with that. We spent money, spent time, worked hard on it, and I don't think we can return the materials. There is a change in gradient and a change in elevation, which would
What if, there's an idea, remove the front one and then the back one, just have it return behind the planter? So it would be L-shaped. And then the planter would be at a lower level.
I have a second option for the commission at least to weigh in on if there's a way to cover maybe the back wall, like with a brick veneer or some sort of wood. If like the issue is that the two materials are too similar and that's why they look a little odd. But maybe if we were to like cover the back wall with something else instead of kind of dismantling the whole wall. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know about covering it up with a different material. No. I have a question. Is this thing sitting on a footer or is it laying on the brick from the alley?
It is, I guess, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by footer, but is not on the brick. It is, it's paper base underneath it. And it was over top of the property, right on the edge of the brick.
Got it. So you put kind of your own paper-based footer underneath it. There you go. All right. I suppose we could continue it and let the homeowner come back with alternatives and we could take a look at them next time. Want to do that? Or we could take a vote now. I'm sure it would be denied from what I hear from the commissioners to do it exactly as you have. So why don't we take a look at it next month after you've had a chance to come up with some options?
Can we get some clear suggestions? I mean, or is the suggestion simply that we would need to deconstruct either piece and reinstall it with the same material and with a natural stone cover? Am I hearing that is the suggestion?
I think that's an option. I think you can certainly come up with other options. That's not the only option.
Okay. May I?
One option might be to build a return off the rear portion of the wall that emphasizes the change in grade. And then you would have a reason you have two different materials, because you would have two very clearly defined grades.
Okay.
I don't know if this particular combination of materials would work, or the rest of the commissioners would be interested in it. But I think that's one way of dealing with the fact that you have two different walls butting up against each other for no apparent reason. And there would be a way to make an L there between the two that would define two different spaces that would have two different walls in front of them. I don't know how that would work, but that's something you could look at. All right.
I just have one question or one comment, team.
Yes, sir.
If you take a look at the closer to the sidewalk, there's a stone that's kind of turned vertical. Just because the grade is a lot less, there's probably some kind of containment of mulch or something of that nature, so you wouldn't have washout. So would you have the opportunity of continuing that same elevation and aesthetic and material back to the location where it jumps up in elevation to the alternate material? Again, I'm not sure about the grade and the elevation on that front portion that is facing the alley or not, if that's doable. But it would be a little bit of, earth removal or something of that nature. And I think that, to everyone's point, then it would have a strong sense of change or continuity of the front. And then you would have a change, so to speak, to the rear with that material. So maybe that's a little bit less money in terms of, and a little bit more kind of sweat in terms of, kind of balancing that grade component, out. But that may be another option too, as well, to consider.
Do you guys understand that?
Yeah, I think I'm following. I think appreciate these suggestions. Doing more or adding to what exists would be our preference, to create some definition for the commission between the two gradients. But would it be helpful for us to, we have considered doing a fence where the previous fence was, and would that be helpful to include in a follow-up to see if that would also help with that definition?
You're talking about a fence along the wall, the rear portion of the wall.
Correct. And right where that transition in material is made is where the fence would turn.
For the flower bed.
Yeah, turn towards the home.
I think that would help, but in my opinion, you'd also need to turn the wall underneath it to put a return there.
I think
towards the house, you don't have to go all the way to the house, but you need a corner there.
I think doing a return there is acceptable and manageable.
I don't know whether I like this or not. I'm just kicking ideas around to try to move the discussion forward. Since this is already here, there's no emergency. Shall we continue this to allow the applicant to come back with alternatives?
Yes, I think we should, and also to allow you to bring forward some diagram or image of what fence you'd like to install also.
If that's part of it.
Yeah, if you're planning to install a fence, I believe we should look at that.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to continue.
Do we have a second?
Second.
That's a motion by Moriarty, second by Kodheimer. Further discussion? All right, Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hisson. Is that a yes? Your sound's off.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is continued. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, next.
This is for various locations in the short north coming up next. This is for signage. This is to install public parking signs at various spots, including in Italian Village. The signs are to be 7 feet tall, 2-inch square steel posts topped with 2-foot round, two-sided parking signs. And I believe there are 2 of these locations proposed for the Victorian Village side. The Short North Arts District Parking Wayfinding Signage Study identified these locations. City of Columbus Parking Team, neighborhood residents, property owners, garage owners, and MKSK all participated in the recommendation process. At the business meeting, commissioners had questions such as, can these be installed on existing poles? And are these wayfinding signs, or are they installed at the parking lots? Staff would recommend approving the application as submitted based on Short North Design Guidelines, post sign guidelines, which state that they should be out of the public right of way, not exceed 7 feet in height, sign face should not exceed 16 square feet in area. And also, I believe this got approved for the Italian Village side yesterday. I could double check though. And the applicant is here to answer those questions, hopefully about the existing poles.
All right, who's here for the applicant?
I'm here. Done.
Visual.
There you are. Caitlin, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but?
Yes.
Very well. Do you have anything to add to what staff has said?
Did a great job summing it up. We had professionals from MKSK, from the community, from parking services, all get together to identify these parking wayfinding signs, which, to your point, there was another subset of wayfinding signage that was installed kind of in the street on lights, on traffic lights and all of that. These are additional wayfinding signs to public lots in the neighborhood. So it did get approved at Italian Village. I did hear your question in the business meeting as far as the poles, the additional poles were concerned. And that was brought up and studied, and in as many places as possible, we made that accommodation. So the junior achievement, oh, that's on the other side, sorry. In as many of the public parking lots that we could, we kept using existing poles. But if you look at this one that you're looking at now, if you didn't identify it right there at that spot, that next road is a one-way. So parking services and MKSK is concerned that even if you put it on that salon lofts sign, that people are going to think they should turn right down the one-way. So that concern that you raised was heard as far as putting them on additional poles that are already there, but in all locations that was possible, we tried to accommodate that.
All right, thank you. Discussion. Any issues? Are we ready for a motion?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Have we a second?
Second.
It's Hissom. Conyers motion, Hissom seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissom.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is approved.
Thank you
very much. All right. What's next?
1154 Neal Avenue. It's a request for action for exterior building modifications and variances. The modifications are to take a 1996 garage and turn it into a carriage house by modifying existing dormers on the west elevation and adding dormers on the east elevation. Variances are for minimum number of parking spaces, for lot width requirements, for fronting on a public street, maximum side yard, minimum side yard, and rear yard. So the resource is not of historic age. And staff found that modifying the building by adding dormers would not significantly change the feeling of the alley. Commissioners recommended approval of the variances at the September 2020 hearing where this was conceptually reviewed, but the variances have been revised since, so they're back here for further review. At the conceptual review, commissioners found that the east elevation seemed squat, but that it wasn't a giant leap of imagination to visualize this going from a garage to a carriage house. Staff would recommend approving the application as submitted based on the standards for alteration, which say that contemporary design shall not be discouraged when that alteration doesn't destroy historic aged features and it fits in with the surrounding environment and contributing properties. They also speak to reversibility and that upon passing appropriateness, the commissioners should consider the immediate neighborhood as well.
All right. Do we have someone here from the applicant or representing them?
Yes, Urban Orders here.
All right. You're both there together.
Now you're in trouble. Here you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Anyone else?
I said, can we see the drawings?
Hang on a minute. Do you guys swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but it? All right. Do you have anything to add to what's been presented by staff so far?
Yeah, I think Sarah did a good job. The only thing I would add is that we, based on the comments of last month's meeting, we were able to revise the elevations to make it less squat. I know that was one of the things that Sean was talking about. So we were able to kind of pick up the dormer and make it more in proportion. And then as far as the variances go, there's only one variance that was different. And after you guys recommended variances last month, the city came back and decided that instead of cutting the yard in half and giving the carriage house in the house a rear yard, they just want to give all the rear yard to the house and no rear yard to the carriage house. So that was, they just asked for clarification on that. So.
Very well. Discussion?
Just obviously, I think that this is a great improvement. So thank you so much, guys, for listening, and appreciate the effort. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks like they listened to what we said. It's a lot better. Anybody else? We ready for a motion? We need two of them. Motion A would be for the certificate.
Approve as submitted for motion A.
All right. That's Conyers. Do we have a second?
Second.
Issam, further discussion. Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Co-timer. Liesel.
You're muted.
Are you voting yes?
Yes. Sorry.
Very well. Conyers.
Yes.
Issam.
Yes.
Deckers, yes. It is approved. Motion B to recommend approval of the variances as submitted. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
well,
that's Conyers. Motion B. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's Issam. Further discussion.
Discussion. I think it's super weird that the city will not allow the carriage house to have a backyard.
Isn't that weird? Because they initially said, yeah, just give each one a backyard and we're good. And then after you guys recommended it, they said, you know what? We can't do that. And I was like, why'd you tell us to do that? So.
Yeah, but why? It's a residence. We're trying to improve quality of life in this neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it has no physical impact on the project, but it's just weird. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's not waste any more time then. Reaching the same conclusion by a different route. Anything else? You ready to vote? All right, Moriarty.
Yes.
Codimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Issam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. It is so recommended.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can you guys clarify who was the second on the variance?
I was. Issam.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
201 to 203 West First Avenue, request for action for exterior building modifications, new construction, and variances. So last month, the commissioners looked at the new carriage house conceptually, and at that stated that the new carriage house would relate to the primary dwelling better if there were some rehabilitation measures taken. So the applicant is proposing some modifications, such as reopening the attic wall dormer window openings, removing the non-historic siding, and then either replacing or repairing the siding pending investigation. They'd also like to add a new front porch per submitted drawings. And at the rear of the house, they'd like to remove an existing column and just replace that with a new column. The new construction is for a 1.5-story, 3-car carriage house at the rear of the property. And then there are also some variances which speak to 2 single-family residences on a lot with requirements, lot size, fronting, yard size of the side yard and of the rear yard. Staff finds that rehabilitation is a positive proposal and that the applicant provided this additional information since the conceptual review to show how the new garage will relate to the size of an adjacent garage. The following includes the minutes from the September 2020 hearing, which generally just stated that the conceptual carriage house needed to be reworked a bit. Staff would recommend approving the application with conditions, such as the garage should be reduced in size by width to better relate to the primary dwelling and the surrounding alley, and that siding condition of the primary dwelling should come back to staff and the commission for further review prior to removal or replacement. Staff base these on the standards for new construction, which state that the physical size and scale shall be compatible to existing contributing properties without overwhelming them. And in the Victorian Village guidelines, it states that accessory structures such as garages should be designed to complement the primary structure on the site.
Can I have a clarification before we go to the owner? What is going, or the applicant, what are we going to do with the siding again, according to the application?
The application is to remove the existing siding and either replace it if this existing siding beneath it is in poor condition, or repair it. It was kind of left up in the air because the siding hasn't been removed yet. So staff agrees with that once it's been removed, we can determine whether it's in a condition where it could be repaired or whether it's beyond repair. So,
and then the replacement would be decided, the nature of the replacement would be decided in a future application.
Yes, it needs to come back to the commission.
Ms. Bullitt, are you here to represent the applicant?
I am here.
Very well. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. What have you to add, if anything?
Okay, so what we did is we provided elevations of the existing house because there was some discussion, and it's actually a pretty large scale building, which you can see on the second sheet. So in the middle there, we also measured the, and if you just scoot a little bit to the left there, you'll see we measured the existing carriage house that was recently built right across the alley. And that's what you're seeing, the white kind of with no siding on it. Then our structure that we're proposing, and then against that with the scale of the existing house. So if you could zoom out a little bit, it would be helpful. There you go. So you're seeing in the middle, you're seeing the existing house, our carriage house, and then the existing across the street. So directly across the alley from this is a 3-car carriage house, very similar in size to what we're proposing. And actually the existing building there is actually, I think, a little bit smaller than what we have. So we do feel that the scale of this carriage house is appropriate contextually for what else is going on in the neighborhood. There is also, this is a bit of a unique alley per se, in that just if you head down the alley, there are actually 2-story houses at the termination of this alley, just like 2 houses down. So it is one of those alleys that also kind of reads as a street, if that makes sense. We do feel like the porch that we've added to the existing house really helps, of course, with the aesthetics of the house itself, and but also I think in the scale. We took the design of the porch. It's very similar to a house that's catty corner to ours, so that's what we used. The bottom left corner is the carriage house that was recently approved and built, I believe. The addition of the porch did create another variance because porches are not allowed to project into a side yard. We also have the rear yard. I will say that for the past couple of years, staff has been requiring carriage house rear yard to always go to the front house unless you have 50% rear yard. So basically what they're requiring is 25% rear yard for the front, 25% for the back. If you don't have 50% rear yard, they do give it all to the front, which I don't agree with it either, but that's what they do, and that's what they've been doing. So that's why we have a 0 rear yard for the back property. But overall, I mean, this really is kind of in scale with what's going on in the neighborhood. And he's done a couple little test places. We think most of the sidings underneath is actually in pretty good shape. You know, we've taken little pieces off here and there just to look at it. So we're hopeful most of it can be salvaged and there'll just be some spot. But again, until we remove it, we will not be able to ensure that can happen. The only other thing I would say is our carriage house is actually lower in height than the carriage house across the alley that was recently approved as well. So
two quick questions, Janet, before I turn it over to the rest of the commissioners. I'm looking at sheet 2, and it appears to show that the width of your proposed carriage house is virtually identical to the one across the street. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Okay,
and the other thought might be that any motion might simply stipulate that you repair the siding, and then if that proves impracticable, you come back with an alternate proposal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Comments, discussion.
One thing that we didn't see last time, but now it's glaring, is the side condition of that porch and the 2 entrances. They're on 2 different levels. Why aren't we fixing that?
Technically,
it is horrible.
I know, but the problem is there's not really, okay, the only way to fix it would be to either put stairs, next to the front door right there, which feasibly you can't do. The other problem with trying to fix it at the back door would require the stairs to come down, and that won't meet code. It's actually a building code issue. Unless we add on, there's not a way to do that. So I was hoping that the porch would help to kind of disguise that, because we really don't have a good solution. I mean, I don't know why it was done this way. It just was. But, well, I know why. Because the stair, they didn't have any room to run the stair longer.
So there's a landing in there?
Well, there's, so the
inside?
Yeah.
One door is higher than the other door, Jack.
Yeah.
So you
No,
go
I see that.
upstairs.
Yeah.
So there has to be a landing inside that stops there that this door leads off of, right?
No. So the front door, if you go in the first door you encounter, you walk directly into the unit. Okay?
Right.
When you go up the stairs and go into the second door, you're in a little landing and and there's just stairs in front of you, and that's it. So it's just the landing of the stair itself that you're walking up to.
Do you need this door for access to another unit?
That's the access for the second floor unit.
So, Jack, they're splitting this up into 2 units, first floor and second floor, and then there's a unit over the carriage house, which gives the 3 parking spaces.
We're not splitting it up. This has been 2 units for quite a long time. That's existing.
It's our third unit from adding the parking garage.
Yeah. It's always been it's been a duplex for quite a long time, or so the previous owner told us. So they're split top and bottom. It's the way they're done. So they're really not doing anything to the inside of the front unit other than some painting and things like that. But
so, Julie, could that what about that extending to the end so you get a flat run on either side of that elevated door?
Extending to the end. I'm not sure what you mean. Can you?
So I'm looking at the side elevation, and to the right side is the front, to the left side is the back, extending that out so it kind of looks like it's a porch that wraps around the whole house.
You're saying make the porch longer?
Yeah.
So it goes to the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. We have no issue. I'm not sure what that does for us.
I think it doesn't focus you on those two doors being different heights, and the one is specifically to get it up to the second one.
So you're saying, as the drawing that's on the screen right now,
Yes.
taking that porch and extending it to the left, to the end.
So that porch would extend directly to the left, and then you would see by the little addition a set of stairs coming down. So I get, if I'm going to have two things, I get a reading of two things.
Okay. Could we zoom out on the drawing? There you go. Okay, so the porch just gets longer to the left.
The porch gets longer to the left, and the actual last piece of it will shoot out past the original house. So you'll see those in front of you.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't know why that, yeah. I don't.
So you'll see a low side, which is your left side, and then where it starts, X number of inches up, that will go all the way to the end, and then you'll see stairs shoot out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
it'll help it out.
Okay. Yeah, it's because so it doesn't look so truncated, is what you're saying on the left.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. That does not impact our variances at all. So
no, it won't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the answer, but I agree that there ought to be a different treatment for that high door that seems to separate or distinguish it from the regular porch. I don't know what that would be, but I know that you come up with ingenious answers to things from time to time.
The other thing we could possibly do is, how sometimes we'll present these things where it looks like a porch that's been enclosed.
I talked to a lot.
We could.
Somebody's speaking in the background.
Sorry. Could enclose the porch at this location, with like a panel and windows, and have all the porch be low visually, and then have these steps inside a vestibule.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because I've seen, side entrances like this that are off grade.
Mm-hmm.
That treatment given to them at various places in the neighborhood. Now, how you connect that with your porch, I don't know, but I think that's something you ought to look at.
Yeah, I think I could do that. You see a lot of precedent for like an infilled porch. I did a project, I think it's over on 3rd. This yellow house that was in very bad shape. I don't know that they renovated. It's close to the old hospital there. And that's what we did at that location. The front porch was enclosed. So, and I think it was nicely done, I think. I think it looked nice, so.
Let me ask this question of the other commissioners. Does anyone have any issues with this application except for the treatment of this weird door?
Not I.
My only comment is that actually you might want to talk to the homeowner. If you're increasing that area of the porch, it seems like the upper unit's outdoor space is right at the window of the lower unit. So that might be kind of a weird neighbor conflict, but
Yeah, we have to figure that out, but I think we could.
I don't have issues with the design other than.
Anyone else?
No, I think that the ideas that are being kicked around in terms of being able to potentially separate them, meaning separate the two elements. So there's an element that addresses the side, then there's another element that addresses the front porch. I think that it could be positive. I get a little concerned when I look at the sill location of the double window that is on the proposed east elevation. If we were potentially to try to extend that porch elevation further plan left. So I'm interested in maybe some alternate solutions to address the concern.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have to come down visually, and how far we extend it left, I think that's a good point. I also think maybe it's not a hip termination, it's straight up on that side like you would normally see on a wraparound, might also help. I don't remember where those windows, let me look and see. But you're right, I don't think we can cover those windows completely. So.
Yeah, I don't even know that you want to do a wraparound anymore. You might want to give a totally different treatment on the side and go back to a porch that just addresses the front street. And then that would make it easier to separate them. But I also agree that going back towards the rear of the building complicates things with that double window.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we have no issues other than that treatment, and we want the applicant to come back with some proposals for how to deal with the high door, what shall we do today?
I would love to get a recommendation on the variances so that we can keep that process going, because this is kind of independent of the variance itself.
I would tend to agree with you. We could also probably do the carriage house, couldn't we? Commissioners?
I'm fine with that.
And then and then you're okay, Julie, saving the main structure for later?
Yeah, as long as, because we do have a variance for that side yard for the porch, but that's, a given anyway, so.
All right, so do we have motion B for the carriage house? Someone.
Are we going to open up discussion for the carriage house? Because pretty much we've only discussed the main house.
I thought that we didn't have any discussions of any issues with the carriage house, but if we do, let's by all means.
I thought it was more so, do we have any issues with talking about the carriage house, given the understanding of what we talked about on the main house? So
sorry about being imprecise. What issues have you with the carriage house?
I guess just one thing is compatibility in terms of material. So I know something right now is being discussed as far as, horizontal siding or what the siding on the main house is still yet to be determined. So it's hard to determine what would be the appropriate material aesthetically for the carriage house. That's kind of one item. The other one is, I think that it's great, and thank you so much for giving us a better understanding of the scale. I think that this drawing is very much helpful. I guess what I was trying to understand is the windows that are being proposed on the carriage house. There's two banks of kind of double kind of windows, or kind of a pairing of two windows, and can those be kind of a paired double hung at both locations, or I should say maybe the north elevation, and then some other window articulation on the west elevation.
On the screen is not mine, by the way.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm not sure what
this is a different application, which you already approved. Now that's pretty safe.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you want to propose this again, but I think you probably want to go to yours.
Yeah. I think, too, I'd like to take off more of the siding, seems what's there. Honestly, we have plenty of time on this carriage house. So I want to look at what's on the existing house in terms of siding. One of the reasons we did this like this was at the time we were going to leave what was on the other carriage on the house itself. And now that we're not going to do that, I do think it changes the vocabulary of this building. I don't disagree on the double window comment. And we could certainly adjust that as well. So
are you okay with our continuing both the front and back buildings?
yes.
Okay.
I need to take one more step and tie it into that. That makes sense.
All right. So do we want to have a motion C and take care of the variances?
I have a question for the applicant.
Mhm.
Yes.
What is the existing siding on the front house now?
Well, it's a combination of vinyl and aluminum siding.
Okay. Just checking if it was the specs.
No, it's not.
But what's inside is what's under it is horizontal.
Yes. And
board or lap siding of some sort.
yeah, and that's what I'm not sure about. I know the client knows, but he's not on here. So
one way or another, horizontal board and batten would be incompatible with either. But all right. So can we have a motion for the variances anyway?
Make a motion for variances as presented.
And that is a motion to recommend approval thereof, right?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Conyers was first, so he's second. He seconds. Discussion. All right. Let's vote. Moriarty.
Yes.
Codimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes. Do we have a motion to continue the remainder of the application?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Codimer moves. Do you want to be a second, Sean?
Yes, sir. That's second.
All right, discussion. Moriarty.
Yes.
Codimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hissam.
Yes.
Decker, yes, it is continued. All right, it is now 6 o'clock. We've been at this for 2 hours. I propose that we take a 5-minute break before we come back to the next application, which may take some time. I have a dog that demands my attention, and I also need to spend some time for myself.
Is this next application the last application?
We have 6 applications more.
6.
We got to work on this, folks.
I'm trying to move things along fast, but sometimes it takes a while. All right, let's go off the record and come back on at 5 minutes after 6. Okay, thank you. Sam? Never caught one till today. And it was an albino. Poor little rare albino squirrel is no longer with us. Sam, you're a bad dog. You're a feral creature. What's up? Have we reassembled? We have. Conyers, Weirdy, Goodheimer, Decker. Jeff, are you here or not?
I am.
Excellent. Let's go back on the record. What's next?
Okay, so just to note, we do have 6 more. Agenda item is 607. Staff does recommend remaining in the hearing, moving through the next 6 items, but just checking in with the commissioners that y'all are good to keep going. I know we just took our break, but.
Is there anyone who cannot complete this, which looks like about an hour or more?
I have a hard stop at 7, so hopefully if we can get them all in, be it.
Yeah, staff is
Right.
supposed to also have a stop at 3 hours. That should be the length of the meeting, no more.
And I think we can do that. Anyone else have a problem completing the meeting? All right, let's go.
All right. We have 23 West 2nd Avenue. This is a request for action for demolition and variances. This application is for the demolition of a portion of the IBEW building. The applicant would like to retain the front 84 feet of the building and demolish the south portion of the building per submitted plans. The existing northern portion of the IBEW building will be connected to new construction by a 3-foot wide recessed connector per some submitted drawings, and rehabilitation of the IBEW building will return for future review. Variances speak to permitted uses, area, building lines, rear yard, and landscaping. Commissioners at the business meeting requested clarification as to why the rear portion of the building needs to be demolished and why it cannot be reused. Commissioners want the applicant to speak to the rationale of demolition. Staff agrees that the applicant should clearly express why the IBEW building cannot be used in its entirety. Demolition of the rear portion constitutes an irreplaceable loss to the character of the building. The applicant has clearly illustrated how they propose to physically incorporate the remaining portion of the building into the new construction, which was requested by staff. They've also submitted all of the other additional information requested by staff, including drawings that show the joinery between the 2 buildings. They also have indicated that rehabilitation and reuse of the remaining portion of the building will occur as part of the overall project scope. Staff would recommend approving this application with conditions. Conditions being that the applicant should commit to the rehabilitation of the remaining portion of the IBEW building, including repairing windows, restoring the exterior, and painting the trim within 1 year of the certificate's date. The rehabilitation scope should return to the commission for further review within that 1 year. The applicant should also confirm definite plans for reuse and evidence of a commitment for funding the new project, a time frame for the project's initiation and completion, and an assessment of the effect that the plan will have on the character and integrity of the property and the district. This information should be submitted to staff for review prior to the issuance of the certificate. These requests and conditions come from the standards. So in the standards for demolition, they state that demolition of a historic or contributing property constitutes an irreplaceable loss of the quality and character of a listed property or district. That if you are seeking to demolish an entire structure or a major portion of a structure, the applicant should also submit definite plans for reuse, the evidence for the commitment of funding, a time frame for the project's initiation, and the assessment that the plan of what the plan will have on the character and integrity of the property in the district. The commissioners should be guided in their decision based on balancing the architectural and cultural value of the structure and the purposes of the code to the subject property against the applicant's proof of any unusual or compelling circumstances or hardship. Staff would note that while demolition has been approved in the past, each demolition is contingent upon the replacement plan. So this demolition application is based on entirely the newly submitted plans. So let me see, what else do I have? Oh yeah, basically at this point, staff agrees with commissioners that the applicant should speak to why they need to demolish this portion of the building. I think that's all.
All right. Thank you. Who is here for the applicant?
Hi, this is Jessica Sharon with Kaufman.
Who is here with you?
Hi, this is Frank Sasso with Kaufman.
Anyone else?
We've got Mike Shannon, our attorney, and we've got Michael Smith, our architect.
Okay, I don't need to swear Mr. Shannon. Mr. Swanson, are you raising your hand for some reason?
Yes, I'm also with the architect.
Very well. Do the four of you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. I do.
One more.
I do.
Very well. What has the applicant to add to this? I think we need, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Commissioner.
No, go. You take it away. I think we've made it very clear that we need to understand why there is a substantial, an unusual and compelling circumstance supporting the demolition of this property. That is the fact that it's in the way of a much nicer, supposedly much nicer development is insufficient. You need to show something along the lines that we have approved in the demos we approved in the past, where it's simply impracticable to make any use of the part of the property you want to demolish. And at some point, I'd like to hear a detailed presentation from the applicant about why that's the case.
Yes, understood. So I would like to address the variances first, and then if you, as a commission, want to vote on the variances and then move on to the demolition, I think that might make sense, but open to then moving on to the demolition. But I will speak to that first, and then we can figure out next steps. So thank you for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. I just want to update everybody on this call that we are here specifically regarding the requested variances and partial demolition. We're not ready to talk about the new construction in further detail yet, but we are making really good progress. So we are near completion of our schematic design plans, and once we complete this phase of the entitlement, we'll be able to move into our design development, and then we'd expect to come back in 1 to 2 months with more specificity on the new construction, including materials, specs, dryer vent locations I think got brought up a while ago, so things like that. So I just wanted to provide everybody with an update and be transparent on where we stand there. So now I'll move on to the variances. As you know, the site's inclusive of 6 parcels classified within 2 zoning districts, the C4 Commercial District and the ARO District. So tonight we're asking for approval of the variances detailed in our application and as follows. And these variances are consistent with conceptual plans that were approved at the August 3rd special meeting. But as requested from the commission at that meeting, we're now back with the necessary measured elevations, detailed site plan, and et cetera, what was in our submission. So within the ARO district, we're requesting to allow parking to serve commercial use, an increased lot area, a reduced building lot line, a rear yard reduction, and a tree variance. And then within the C4 district, we're requesting to allow residential use for our split parcel, and that's the parcel directly to the west of the Salon Lofts building, to allow a building height of 89 feet, to allow compact parking spaces, and to allow ground floor residential. And so these variances are largely consistent with the variances that were approved in our May 2017 application. So as a reminder, these are also the variances requested in conjunction with the conceptual plan, which was approved on August 3rd. We're not doing anything different in regards to that plan. So Frank, do you want to add anything from the Kaufman side?
No, I think it's well said. We'll speak to the demo here, after we get through the variances, but I would just reiterate, we heard loud and clear from Sean and from Lissel and others, the desire for a collaborative process, and we appreciate the conceptual approval that's allowed us to advance the plans, and we look forward to coming back in a few months on materiality, windows, mechanicals, those sorts of things.
Staff will also note that we do have some speakers who I believe wanted to speak to the project as a whole. If you did want to only talk about demolition right now, I would like to give the speakers the opportunity to
Sarah, why don't we have, I think we need to tackle these things perhaps in a different order than they've been presented. So why don't we hear the demolition presentation and then take the speakers?
Yep, that's fine.
All right.
Yep. So as you know, as part of the new construction, we're proposing a partial demolition of the existing IBW building. The demolition would keep the front 84 plus feet of the building, removing the southern portion of the building. And as you'll note, the submission is consistent with what was approved in May 2017. And we're actually proposing to keep the alley access west of the building, which is a change from the 2017 submission, which we think is an enhancement for neighborhood accessibility. In our submission, you'll see a number of documents, including interior photos of the building, which show its deteriorated state. I believe that was something that was requested at the last meeting. Further, as requested at the July meeting, we're showing the footprint of the building portion being demolished in several views, including a survey view, aerial map, and in context with the new construction. We've also submitted detailed photo images, plans, and materials for the connection between the existing and new building, as well as contextual guidance for our design. And Frank will speak a little bit more on this momentarily, but the existing building is not viable commercial property in its current condition. And we can really only bear the economic burden of bringing it up to the standard and maintaining it through the value that we create with the new portion of the project. And as we know, the task at hand is to balance this partial demolition with the merits of the replacement project. And we are proposing a demolition of just a portion of the building. Very little of it was the original portion, and we don't feel any of it is really the contributing structure. So the replacement project is not only the new building, which received conceptual approval, as I said a few different times, but it's also the repair of the existing contributing portion of the building. So today we are asking for approval of that partial demolition as we've detailed in this submission and as was consistent from the May 2017 submission. So I'd like to turn it over to Frank to speak further on the existing state of the building.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
Well,
so
Frank?
Appreciate it, commissioners. Thank you. So we've spent a lot of time together. So just to remind everybody for some context, when we originally started the conversation way back when in 2015, 2016, we had originally shown a concept of keeping the front facade of the building. We heard loud and clear from the commissioners and from the neighbors that there was a very strong desire to preserve a good portion of the original structure. And so that has been the tack that we have maintained. But as Jessica stated, the existing building is not in a viable condition, and there would be a tremendous economic hardship to bring it to a viable condition for commercial leasing. So, and I'll speak to that more in a minute. There's extensive water damage inside the building. There's extensive damage on the roof that is allowing for water infiltration, as well as the tuck pointing on the brick. There's in most parts of the building, there's less than an 8-foot height between floors and finished ceilings, and the drop ceilings don't offer that much more height above that. So there really is not any kind of near a commercial grade ceiling height for even an office tenant, let alone a retailer. And even in the best of times, back in 2017, when the original demo was approved, this was not in viable commercial state. Obviously, we all know we're not in the best of times. You walk down High Street, sadly, and you see all the vacancy. And so the pandemic has sort of exacerbated these already challenging conditions for the building. we've gone through and done a pretty extensive budgeting exercise with our general contractor on what we would need to bring this building up to a leasable condition. So this is, to get it to a place where a tenant might consider a commercial lease in this building, and it's just under $1 million. That includes a new HVAC system, about $150,000 in asbestos remediation. It's full of asbestos, unfortunately. $165,000 in a new elevator to meet code, a new roof, tuck pointing, window repairs, and various other repairs to the structure. And that's not to mention any kind of internal fit out for a tenant. So there's a pretty significant, very, very significant cost to bring this up to code. We also estimate.
May I interrupt with a question, because I'm not sure I'm following you, Frank?
Sure.
The figures you just gave me and the photos you're showing, are those for both the part of the structure to be demolished and the part to be preserved? And are your the cost estimates you gave for both, or for the part to be preserved or the part to be demolished?
Sure. So to clarify, the cost estimates I gave are strictly for the part to be preserved. They do not include demo cost. We are committing to and proposing to preserve over 70% of the original structure. So as we all know, there was the banquet addition that was done in the back. The IBEW used to use it for meetings and bingo nights. That's primarily the piece that's being demoed. The significant portion of the original structure is what we're proposing to preserve. And these costs that I run through are the cost to preserve that structure. And as I think Sarah did a really great job in her staff report pointing out, there's a balancing act, as we all know, between the contribution of the new structure and the contribution of the existing structure, as well as the economic hardship that an applicant would face. And here we're not asking for approval to demo, the original structure or very much of the original structure as there's precedent for with other projects. For example, Grandview Mercantile Exchange, where I think they couldn't find the replacement tile. That was an operating business prior to it being demoed, and certainly several others. Here we're saying there is a very significant economic hardship, and it's one that we're willing to bear based on the conceptual approval we received in August for the new project, and based on this partial demolition that allows us to build the new project. It's a hardship that we're willing to bear. I just want to point out a couple other quick things here and be respectful of time. So we talked to our friends at the IBEW. These windows are leaded pieces of glass with custom wood framing around. They're not windows you can purchase anywhere. The only person they could find to repair these is up in Cleveland, and it's a custom craftsman. So they would take a window out, ship it up to Cleveland. That person would take it apart and essentially rebuild it and repaint it. So it's very expensive to take these windows apart and replace damaged windows. There's wood that is rotten that needs to be repaired. There's obviously paint that's needed, as staff pointed out in its recommendation. I want to speak to a couple other things real quick. The current plan is everything I just said: new HVAC, new roof, tuck pointing, painting. Keeping essentially the original building as it looks today, just restoring it. We don't have a tenant for that building currently. We're going to try to market it. We think it's either potentially a retail use or an office user. If and when we do have a tenant for that building, and if that tenant, as part of their tenancy, is requesting any changes, obviously, to the exterior in any way, we would be back before this commission to request those. But at this time, our plan is to, essentially restore and bring the existing building up to a leasable condition. New roof, new HVACs, tuck pointing, fix the water leaks, all that kind of stuff. I mentioned, Grandview Mercantile as example. Again, we are maintaining the vast majority of this original structure, and the partial demo in the back is what allows for that, is what is the balancing act here for the financial hardship of repairing and maintaining this structure. I think the commissioners, really should be balancing that and thinking about that as you guys always do. And by doing that, you're going to allow us to preserve this original contributing structure for future generations and really make that economic hardship bearable by allowing the rest of the project to go forward with the partial demo. So Jess, unless you have anything to add, those are my comments on demo.
Thank you. Does that complete your presentation?
It does.
Very well. Let's take our speakers, and what's before us today is the demo request and the zoning. So I think that's what we need to be talking about if we're going to have speakers, which we are.
Yes, and I would also remind speakers that if you spoke at the most recent meeting, your comments are fresh on the commissioners' minds. So please try not to repeat so much if that was on your plan. But happy to have you for 3 minutes each. I have my timer. Sorry if I'm interrupting you if you're not done in 3 minutes, but we have to keep moving. So first,
go ahead.
First speaker is Colleen Renner.
Ms. Renner, are you there?
I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Very well. Please proceed.
All right. So a couple different comments here. So first of all, we mentioned the environmental concerns. Like Sarah said, not going to harp on them, but still the concerns of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the migrational bird treaty. So there is some swallows. Would like to know that there is a concern and that has been vetted out. Second, there's been a lot of comments about slippery slope and precedents, and the ask here is a lot of economic concerns and economic hardship. My concern is that with the Kaufman organization owning this business, this building for multiple years, I can speak to the fact that I've never seen any kind of upkeep be made to this building. So my concern is that over time, we are setting the precedence that an organization can buy a building, let it go simply to a place where they cannot afford to keep it up and then be able to do whatever they want with it. I'd like to know what kind of upkeep they have done, considering with the weeds and everything else, it looks like they have just chosen not to do anything. Lastly, they also talked about how it would take a lot of work since it's an existing building, Star and High. They have maintained everything. They have ripped it down. They have put on a new window. Put on a new roof, put in all new windows. They are doing everything and maintaining this original building. And then also we all go through, we cannot rip down garages because they are actual historical buildings, but we are seeing people with large money like Kaufman possibly be able to just rip down anything because it is the economic hardship here for them. There's still a lot of vacant buildings up and down High Street. So my question would also be based on this economic situation, like Frank pointed out, is this actually viable to get a tenant in, or are we going to see this be empty for a while?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, team. Next is Lisa Wood.
Ms. Wood,
Yo, hi.
are you here? You
Yes.
swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Please proceed.
So I've listened to the entire evening, and it seems like there's two sets of rules. There's the Short North guidelines that apply to everyone else in the Short North, and then there's the Brett Kaufman wants his own rules. He's had 2 special meetings. He threatened to retaliate if he doesn't get his way. I think we need to stick to the guidelines, and he's got to be accountable the same way as the rest of us are. If I have to maintain my house, I watched the pipes burst over there. They let that happen. So I just think we've got to stick to your guns and be fair to everybody else. They got to play by the same rules. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bill Wood.
Oops. Who's next?
Bill.
Mr. Wood.
Am I up now?
You're up. You swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very well. Please proceed.
All right. My first comment is to Jessica. She says it's very little of the building is original. As I have shown through the Sanford maps, back to the 1800s, all of the building is original. None of it was built after the original building was built. So for them to say that, as far as what Frank said, You bought this place in September of 2016. In the last 3.5 years that you've owned it, you have not put in one into maintenance of that building. My wife and I had to call your office to tell you that you had a flood in your basement that did all the water damage. You guys had no idea about it. And you didn't care about it because the only thing you're hoping is that it's going to fall down and you won't have to spend any money on it. So any maintenance, no, you didn't do any maintenance. And so any economic hardship that may prevail now is your own creation. It's not the buildings. When the IBEW people moved out, the building was in fine shape. They had been there for the last 45 years. They had meetings in it. They had family gatherings in it. And you're saying that you can't do anything with it. It's because you haven't done anything to it. And you now have a mess. And you should be responsible for fixing it. And also, Frank, to say that you're keeping 70% of the building is a flat lie. The building is 146 feet long. You are keeping 84 feet. You are getting rid of almost 45% of the building. So let's just start. I mean, let's get the truth out of them. Let's make them responsible for what they bought. We didn't force them to buy the building. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. All right, who's next?
Reinhardt.
Mr. Reinhardt, you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth if you're there.
I'm here, and yes, I am. Yes,
there
I
you
do.
go. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, so I have to admit the last time I voted there, which was just before the building was bought, I did not see the deterioration and things being inside the building. And I've been in many parts of that building over my 20 years of living here that had a problem at all. As Bill pointed out, there was a pipe full, water went everywhere. There's been people breaking in there, and so I agree with the maintaining part of it. The one thing I will disagree with is the comment on where you would have to send windows to get them fixed properly to repair them. Well, I just went to a place in Clintonville and bought 30 1/4 by 70 1/4 wood windows to replace in my schoolhouse in Hocking College down in Hocking Hills for $150 a piece. And I didn't have to go very far. So I don't think enough research has been done on who can fix what, because there are plenty of people here in Columbus that could absolutely fix windows. Regarding the variances, my main concern with the variance is how it's going to affect my personal property. And the neighbors up and down 2nd Avenue where they're requesting zero variances back up to the alley, which I have no control over how my garage was built in the 1940s, which, yes, is an ugly garage. But it's going to impact us being able to have the full use of our garage. So that is my comment on the variances. Thank you very much.
And the next speaker is Ross Reinhardt.
He's not on here.
Okay.
Skip him.
Switch off of the Reinhardt house.
Okay, that was our last speaker.
So can I clarify one thing for the record? We did ask the city of Columbus for the building permits. The banquet room addition, which is, we all kind of knows that back, windowless portion was added in 1959. So just so you know, the 70% comment is based on interior square footage. most of the original structure that we're preserving is 2 stories. And the portion that we're demoing, that we're proposing to demo, is some of it's 2 stories, but some of it's 1. So that's where the 70% of the original structure comment, how that gets calculated. Just want to put that on the record.
Frank, I've got one more clarification issue, because there was a discussion several meetings back about what had and had not been approved for demolition and when. And I tried to compare all the proposals and the votes that we took, and it was a confusing mess because a lot of the descriptions of what you intended to do varied and had different beginning points and ending points. So let's just nail this down. I'm looking at the overhead. I can't tell what page I'm on. The aerial shot with the greened out part of the building to be demolished. As I take it, your intention is to preserve all of the original IBE building that's covered by the pitched roof. And very shortly after the pitched roof ends, the portion of the building south of that is going to be demolished. Have I read that properly?
Yes, that's correct. So you have the pitched roof, and then it steps down slightly, and at that point is where we start that demolition, is kind of that change in that roof line. If we can, if you can go to the west perspective, it shows it, pretty well. It doesn't show it as well.
It's very difficult to see what the roof does looking from the west. That was the problem in trying to measure everything from the street or the corner of the building or whatever yielded unreliable results. So I just want to make sure that whatever we discuss and approve will also reference the roof line so we know exactly where the demo line is if we approve anything.
Yes, and we agree. And the east portion of the building, unless you're on the property, is difficult to see as well. And of course, from the south looking north doesn't do it justice either. So that's why we did the survey in particular, as well as a few different angles, the aerial view, et cetera.
If my fellow commissioners will, unless somebody objects, I'd like to keep going with the demo before we get into zoning to see how much is settled before we talk about the zoning issues. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I think the speakers, but also the Kaufman presenters have kind of muddled the issues here. The code says, under standards of demolition, that the commission shall balance the historical cultural value of the structure and architectural feature against applicant's proof of any unusual and compelling circumstances or substantial economic hardship in retaining the structure or feature. So that's the hardship in keeping the green part that you're going to get rid of, not necessarily the hardship in rehabbing the part you're going to keep. And the merit of the replacement project. Again, we're balancing the merit not of the part of the building you want to keep, but the merit of what is going to replace the part of the building you're going to demolish. I would also point out that you've got 2 code provisions that follow that, defining what substantial economic hardship means and what unusual and compelling circumstances means. If you look at substantial and economic hardship, it says we shall consider some things like denial of a certificate will result in a reduction in the economic value of the property. Denial of a certificate will result in a substantial economic burden on the applicant because the applicant cannot reasonably maintain the property in its current form. No reasonable alternative exists consistent with the architectural standards, and the owner's been unable to sell the property. If you go back to 31-1607, which is materials required for consideration, it requires an applicant who is alleging substantial economic hardship to give us all kinds of economic information about their means. So that it strikes me that the real thrust of point 15 about substantial economic hardship has to do with an applicant that really can't afford to do anything else. I think what we need to be concentrating on is 311616, unusual and compelling circumstances. Like I said before, the property cannot be reasonably maintained in a manner consistent with the standards. No reasonable means of stemming the property from deterioration, demolition, or collapse other than the applicant's proposal exists. And one, the property has little or no historic architectural significance, which we probably aren't going to find. So it seems to me that we've gotten kind of muddled here, and we need to concentrate on the condition of the rear part of the building. We're taking as a given, apparently, that the front part of the building is going to be tried to be reused, but we need to look at what it would cost to do something other than tear down the back of the building and what the consequences of doing or not doing that would be. End of speech. Other commissioners.
I go back to my main topic of what we did with the Pizzuti building. The gem of this building is the front part of the building. That's where all the architectural vocabulary is, and that's where we should be focusing our efforts.
I agree with you up to a point, but our point of divergence, Jeff, is that with the Pizzuti building, Pizzuti presented lots of evidence that the rear part of the building, the portion that was going to be demolished, had no reasonable commercial value. That they could not, given its location, the way the space was immutably arranged in the part to be demolished, that it couldn't be used. So I think that's what's missing here, is we need evidence like that we got in the Pizzuti project about the back of the building and why it cannot be preserved.
Just to briefly touch on that, I think, a lot of the commissioners on the call have walked the building, toured the building, and we all kind of walk the neighborhood all the time. Other than the windows you see on the screen there's really no other windows in the back. It's all the same burdens that I spoke to in my opening comments, the low ceiling heights, the leaking, the tuck pointing, the HVAC, the roof, those same issues, those same economic burdens exist throughout the building. So, that would be, and here, what's very different than Grandview Mercantile is, last time I walked by, that entire building was gone, I'm pretty sure. And, we're talking about saving the majority of the original structure that was built in the 20s and really preserving that. There is no, Jack, I think to your point, and it's a good one, I don't see anybody leasing this back space, and particularly with all the vacancy in the Short North now, but even prior to that, it's just not viable commercial space in any way. And I think most commissioners probably would agree with that, having walked it and just knowing the building, we all walk by it all the time.
Here's the elephant in the room, though. I'm sure you've got some common space built into this complex, right? For the residents to enjoy, a workout room, that sort of stuff, right?
We do.
And here we have a big open garage area, which could very easily be used as precisely that kind of common space right next to this 160 unit or whatever it is complex you're going to build.
And Jack, we looked at that actually at one point, going back, years now. We actually, if you remember, we had the pool in a different location in one of the prior applications, and we got a lot of feedback from the neighbors that they didn't want the pool where it was. And so we moved it. not to mention the fact that also we would look at it the same way as a retail or an office tenant would. It's not great space for a gym or an amenity because of the lack of windows and the ceiling height. But that amenity space really wants to be by the pool. And at the commissioners and the neighbors' request, we moved the pool to Price Avenue. So it's now very far from where the main amenity space. But to your point, that is something we looked at and did consider years back.
Mr. Chairman?
Who's this?
This is Mike Shannon, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
May I address the chair and the members of the commission?
You may.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, I want to apologize for wearing a ball cap, but I'm told the combination of my overhead lighting and my bald spot has blinded commissioners in 7 different jurisdictions. So I think it's for the general good of the commission that I wear my cap.
You are allowed to wear a cap because this is a high holy week of playoffs in addition.
And I know that it's been stressed, and I just want to mention it for the record. And Jack, you were part of the process back in 2016 that went on the inspection of the property with the HBO as well as other members of the commission. And you rightfully pointed out that that was a different commission and to some extent than is currently impaneled. But I do think the standards for demolition and the law and the code and the balancing test and the economic hardship and to a certain extent the unusual and compelling circumstances, those were all decided by the commission, and a majority of the commission did rule that it met those criteria. And in our opinion, that was consistent with Victorian Village guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, as well as the Victorian Village Historic District guidelines. And I bring that up because today's partial demolition is remarkably similar. Mr. Chairman, you are very consistent in that historically, as you know, I did handle the Pizzuti project and that partial demolition. What was a former governor's mansion and unquestionably a real gem. That partial demolition was facilitated by the lack of functionality of the rear portion of that building. And there was a similar consequence to the demolition of that portion of the building that was not functional also facilitated the construction of the garage that was not only for the use of the Pizzuti company, but for the general public. And it's remarkably similar that this partial demolition would help facilitate us not coming in and asking for a parking variance. But you're consistent in that, Jack, you always seem to emphasize the existence of unusual and compelling circumstances under 3116. But when you go back to your standards of demolition, and you know this better than me, Mr. Chairman, but I just want to say it for the record, that the balancing act that you look at for the purposes of this chapter are proof of any unusual, compelling circumstances or substantial economic hardship, basically vis-a-vis the merit of the replacement project. And although I feel we've established that there's an economic hardship, it might strain your reasoning, but I think it could be argued that there are also unusual and compelling circumstances in that this portion of the property was actually in a bastardization of the gym that is the IBEW building. It was done in 1959, and Frank has already indicated the virtual inability to market this space given its condition as well as the heights of its roof. So it's not, you have to show both an economic.
Well, I hate to interrupt you, Mr. Shin, but I'm prepared to agree with you that if you show that this space is commercially not viable, the space that you're going to demolish is commercially unviable, then I think you've made a pretty good showing of compelling and unusual circumstances, at least as this commission applied it in 2 other cases.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I could continue.
Go ahead. I just want to point out I don't think we have a disagreement there.
Okay, well that should be noted for the record that we agreed. But the point I wanted to emphasize was if in your mind we have not established that there's a compelling or unusual circumstance, we certainly can hang our hat on the other fork of the two-pronged test, i.e. the substantial economic hardship. And with all due respect to you, Mr. Chair, I agree with staff. I think they were spot on in their analysis. And again, it's been 4 years since we started this venture. And as you say, commission members have changed. Certainly times have changed, but the law has not changed. And the application of that law has not changed. And with all deference to you, Mr. Chairman, I think the equitable thing to do here would be to approve the demolition permit. With respect to the zoning variances, you wanted to handle that as an ancillary matter, but they are all a practical difficulty standard, with the sole exception of the use variance to allow the residential use on the ground floor. So I'd respectfully request your approval of those as well. And I thank you for the time to speak to your commission. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We're about to run into our hard stop. We've got 9 minutes left. And we've got, what, 5 more applications waiting?
Yes, we do.
And I think the one that we really have to hit is that one you just added to the end of the agenda, which should take us 30 seconds.
There's old business, yes.
What do we want to do with this?
Staff,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you were going to continue with this, I would ask that the other commissioners speak to this proposal prior to further discussion with the applicant, just to get everyone on the record. I don't know what you were going to suggest, like with moving forward to a different application. You can go ahead.
Are we prepared to vote on the zoning now? Anyone?
I think we should give it a shot.
For the demo, what I would like to see is photos and additional evidence that addresses the part of the building to be demolished, because I don't think we have that yet. I think we've talked about the part of the building to be preserved, but we're going to do this on the basis that the rear part of the building does not have existing commercial value. We need to have that on the record before we do something like that, before we pronounce a death sentence on a contributing historic part of a contributing historic structure. Do we generally agree on that? Does anyone disagree?
I have some comments.
You do disagree or not? Yes or no? I didn't understand you, Sean.
I said no, sir. I don't disagree.
Very well.
Jack,
Anyone else? Yes.
I said I have some comments on the demolition before we vote on that for sure.
Do we want to simply continue the demolition and vote on the zoning now?
Yes.
Can I also ask a question for clarification? Those photos that the applicant submitted, are those of the portion to remain, or have we received any photos of the portion to be demolished?
They are both. Yeah, they include both.
Okay, if we did end up continuing this, it would be helpful to submit a package solely what is being demolished, showing specific damage and clarifying what is being demolished photo-wise.
Yeah, I would just note, we have, I think Jess said this in our comments, we've gone through SD. We're much like the conceptual approval, we're looking for this kind of gating factor from the commission to proceed with DD so that we can come back in with all the details that I think Sean and Lissel and others have asked for. So I would ask that if, depending on how the other commissioners feel, if we can get an up-down vote on both demo and variance, given that we've submitted those photos, it would allow us to move forward with DD and then be able to come back in a month or two to really talk materiality, windows, all those things I know everyone wants to kind of get into. So that's from a timing perspective. I would just say that that's our request.
Is anyone interested in approving the demo based on the information we have at hand?
I am.
Anyone else?
I have more questions. I'd like to see them now if you have time.
You broke up, but I think you said you had more questions and would like to wait.
No, I'd like to ask questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. I haven't yet seen any reason or story why the canopy is being demolished as part of this demolition plan. I understand the storyline behind the rear portion of the building, but the canopy seems to be part of the historic fabric, and it's going to be public space anyways. I'm going to need some reasoning for why that's being demolished. My second point is the last section of the building that is being retained on the west facade. You can see there's some glass block in the, to the right of that rear door. And I would just, sorry, there's a lot of feedback from someone. I would request that some of the historic windows that are being removed from the portion that's proposed to be demolished be reused and put into that area where the glass block is showing currently. I think that's something that we would require probably of any applicant, residential or commercial, to please, restore the building that the portion of the building that's being preserved should be restored back to its original state, which is clearly not glass block. That's what I got.
All right, let's try to take care of it this way. Let's have a motion to continue, and then if you want to vote, you would vote the motion down if you want to approve the demo now and think you have enough material. Does that make sense? Do we have a motion to continue the demo request?
We didn't have an opportunity to answer your questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and answer. I'm just sensitive to the fact that we're running out of time here.
Aaron, I think it's a good comment on the windows, and we'll talk to the architecture team, but I would imagine that's something we could accomplish. And then Jess maybe could speak to the car canopy.
Yeah, so it's not in great shape as it exists now, but also it really blocks the view of kind of through that building, and I think it's a very big safety concern, and it pretty much limits the use of that east facade for a tenant. And so while we are demoing that rear portion, we would like to remove that. It will help with the new building in relation to where some mechanicals will be located. It will provide more access points for the future tenant, and it's really a big safety concern at this point.
All right. Is that, are we ready to take some action one way or the other here? Somebody.
Can move to forward the portion of the application regarding demolition.
That's a motion to continue. Is that correct? You keep breaking up. I think it is. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll. Any more discussion? Roll call. Moriarty.
Yes.
Kodheimer. Liesel.
Yes.
That's a yes vote.
Yes. Sorry.
Conyers.
Yes.
Hisson.
Yes.
Decker, yes. That portion is continued. Anyone? Okay. Do we have a motion to recommend the variances as submitted?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? We ready to do this now? Do we want to see more development? Does it make a difference? Hearing nothing, let's take a vote. Moriarty?
Yes.
Kodheimer?
Yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Hisson?
Yes.
Decker, no. Motion passes. I think that concludes our business today. How we address. We have two more things that I think we can get to today, Sarah. One is the old business. Secondly, we have to continue our remaining applications. And third, we have to decide when we're going to take them all up again.
So
Particularly the one with the circus house, which will take some time.
Well, staff would recommend possible that we take a look at that one. Next on the agenda is a very thorough application that staff would recommend approving almost entirely as proposed. So if you had the ability to sit down and take a look at that, the applicant provided a very thorough application. But again, up to you guys.
Let me ask this question. Does anyone, I assume we've all done what Sarah suggested and taken a look at this in some detail in advance, right? Does anyone have any issues with anything that's proposed to be done with the circus house?
Nope.
Sean, no? You're shaking
No,
your
sir.
head.
No,
Lisa?
sir. No, sir.
No, I mean, theoretically, no.
It makes me nervous as heck to do it this fast for
Yeah,
the gem of our
I don't want to do
neighborhood.
it this fast.
So the concern,
which is understood.
the concern that I had was mainly about the sealant that they were proposing. I don't know if you'd be more comfortable removing that portion from it and moving forward with other portions that seemed to meet the guidelines pretty clearly. But I also understand that we're on a time crunch. Do you want me to present it or what? How would you like to move forward?
We don't have time for that. I think we either have to continue it or vote on it, or we're going to be well past your.
So,
Mr. Rogers, are you the applicant?
Yes, I am.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
We are very, very grateful that you've taken on this project. It is maybe our white knight here. This is sort of the capital of our neighborhood. Do we have anyone else from the applicant? Jason Henry and Elijah Lest, you both swear from the testimony you're going to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, now I don't understand what you were saying, sir. Are you suggesting that we call out what? The sealant?
The portion on the application that staff had a question about was that they're proposing to apply a brick and stone masonry water repellent sealer. Staff would just not recommend applying a sealer unless the applicant can describe why water repellent is required. And then if they did explain why it's required, staff would want to make sure that they were going to test that on a patch on a non-visible area. Everything else that they've proposed, which is listed on the agenda, does not seem to go against any of the guidelines.
Despite our nervousness, would we be ready to entertain a motion that approved everything but the sealant and defer that to staff? Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Rogers and others, but we're trying to do you a favor here.
Understand. Just a quick question.
Yep.
Is there, for instance, some of those, provide new outdoor built-in grill and base and those things, those embellishment items that are not necessarily contiguous with, restoring the property or maintaining the property, can those be excluded that would allow the team a little bit more time to talk through those? Would that be beneficial to being able to move this forward by breaking that up?
I think I would also note that I would like the commissioners to at least speak to the rebuilding of the parapet walls, because I think that's the largest portion of the project. So that would be another thing just to mention, make sure we have on the record that you guys did all take a look at it and it was okay with everyone.
I walked by it, and the parapet wall faces Goodale Park. It's around the corner. And it is very clearly been altered. There is a very clear line in the brick that shows some of it. It's a crooked line that shows some of the original brick has been replaced and then has been removed and replaced. And Mr. Rogers, I would assume that it is your intention to go down to that line when you remove brick and start restoring. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. If you look at sheet A6.00 on the screen right now, that jagged line that you just described is actually shown on that elevation. So we saw what you saw when you walked by. There's a very clear and very irregular line as to where in the 1950s, the original brick, we believe there was probably severe water damage at that point. It was falling apart. So they decided to reconstruct. And some, 1950s modernists said, let's just do a stark, simple, flat brick wall there.
Right.
But yes, that line that you described is shown. And that's the point where the color of the brick changes quite markedly.
And we're going to match the new brick with the existing.
Yes, and in the packet that you received in our the photograph section, we put a lot of time and effort into working with our restoration and masonry contractor, H.K. Phillips, and we were able to find a really good brick match, which is shown in two of the photographs, photos 14 and 15 in our packet. We took one in sunlight and one in shade just to make sure we were looking at it properly, and we're pretty happy. We're going to use a mix of 2 new bricks and some of the removed bricks to make this happen. So
sew them together.
Yeah, we're going to be the contractor we're working with, H.K. Phillips, they're excellent at. They're really plugged into what we're trying to do here, and they've got a lot of experience. They helped us find the brick match. We're very comfortable that it's going to look better in terms of matching color than what you see now on those parapets. But we are also going to bring back the original corbel table pointed arch details, which when you look at the historic photos, it makes you realize how much was taken away from the architecture when that was changed.
This is a labor of love, and we're very sorry to not give you the time that we would like to. But are we ready for a motion to approve as submitted, excluding the patio grill and use of sealant?
Could I have a couple seconds to speak about the use of sealant, please?
If you like.
All I want to point out is the product that we're proposing, it protects the wall from water infiltration, obviously. It does not change the color of the wall material, and it allows the wall to breathe. So in the old days, sealers on masonry were a bad thing because they didn't allow the wall to breathe, and any water that got in from other places ended up getting trapped in the wall, and you ended up causing more damage than good. The product that we're recommending is not a product that does that. It's a breathable product, and it does not change the color. So if those are your fears, I just wanted to point that out.
I think that any motion we made would refer the use of the sealant issue back to staff for their technical expertise, and maybe you could settle that.
That would be fine.
If you can't, then you'd come back to us.
Sarah has been great to work with. We had a lot of great discussions with her and Jamie, and I'd be more than happy to work with Sarah on. We're not forcing that sealer to happen, but we think it's a good thing to do with this building, and we're comfortable that it's not going to have a detrimental effect. So I'd be happy to work with Sarah.
Very well. Do we have a motion? Someone.
I will make a motion. Motion to approve as submitted, pending staff approval of a couple items as I'll list on page 2 of the application. Number 7, seal brick and stone masonry. We are pending staff approval of a test site and I guess documentation of what the sealer will accomplish. Number 9, and any further references to new windows, we'd want staff approval on that as well.
And then are we excluding number 22, the outdoor built-in grill? To make Sean happy.
Sure, excluding number 22, we're continuing that for further review.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion.
I have one more question I just saw as I was going through that. The roofing, I don't know what grade TPO roofing is. Are we okay with that, staff?
Yeah, I don't. That's just a form of a membrane roof. It's just basically a higher end membrane roof. So that's helpful. A lot of times where you can see it, being gray kind of helps the glare. Sometimes you'll see white. I do, I think Daryl and his group is extremely meticulous. So a lot of times where we have a situation where we have TPO that turns up onto an adjacent wall, we need counter flashing and things of that nature to hide it. And I think that his group is the right group that would achieve those type of details.
And staff's okay with white.
Got it.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, we have a second. Conyers, we had discussion. We ready to vote? Moriarty?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Codeheimer? Liesel?
Sorry, yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Is Mr. Hissam still with us? I do not see him. He is not present. Decker, yes. It is done. Do we have a motion to continue the remainder of the project? That being number 22.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, Conyers. Discussion. Let's vote. Moriarty?
Yes.
Codeheimer?
Yes.
Conyers?
Yes.
Decker, yes. Before we all run and hide, are we going to continue? Well, are we going to deal with the new old business? Let's do that.
Sure. It's at 29 West Avenue. This was already approved. Sorry, let me scroll down. This is to remove a window on the south elevation and replace with a smaller window. The addition itself at the June hearing, staff just construction drawings to review and notice that the plan, it stated that the window on the south elevation would be reduced in size, which is just something that the commissioners hadn't considered or spoke to at the hearing. The applicant has made it clear that the window must be reduced in size in order for the addition to attach appropriately, but previously. The applicant has also stated that let's see what I'm trying to find. Stone sills will be retained, and they're here to speak to former questions.
Do you have anything to add, considering that we're pressed for time?
Not unless you need us to.
All right. Does anyone have any issues with this window as it appears on the construction drawings?
No, sir, I have no concern. This is Conyers.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion to approve this revised application or new one or whatever it is as submitted? Yeah, Aaron, am I moving too fast?
No, I guess not. If Sean's okay, I'm okay.
Are you okay? All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Here we go. Moriarty.
Yes.
Codeheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Decker, yes. All right, we've got how many more applications that we haven't acted on? 4?
Yes, one from earlier that we'd spoken to, 2 that they didn't show up, and then 3 that we didn't speak to yet.
Is it safe to say we're out of time?
I mean, staff is here, but the rules do say 3-hour hard stop. So I'm not sure if you would want to move forward.
I think we probably ought to stop our rapid agenda at this point and continue the remaining ones. Anybody disagree with that?
I think that's a good idea.
Motion to continue them?
To continue all further applications.
Second?
Second.
Codeheimer was first on the draw. Any further discussion? All right, here we go. Moriarty. Codeheimer.
Yes.
Conyers.
Yes.
Becker, yes. They are continued. All right. Any further business, Sarah?
No.
Hey. Well, it's not for wanting of trying to move fast that we ran over. So here we go. If we get backed up too far, we're going to have to go to special meeting again. But here we go. Do we have a motion? Anything else to do, or do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Happy Halloween, everyone. Thank you very, very much for your service to our fair city.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.